Live Life Rare, the podcast to help you discover and pursue what a rare life means to you.
And welcome back to another episode of Live Life Rare. And this is a special podcast episode because this is now our first video version of the podcast. And I'm very excited to have as my guest today, Mr. Wes Michael, who is the founder of Rare Patient Voice. We're going to get into what all they do and the path that life led Wes down to creating this wonderful platform that I'm actually a member of myself. So great to have you with us today, Wes.
Well, thank you, Stephen. I'm really excited to be here.
Okay, so kind of give us a high-level view of what Rare Patient Voice is, what it's about, and we'll go from there.
Sure. So what we do is we give patients or caregivers, like a family member taking care of someone, a chance to take part in research, to give their opinions, to express their views, to help companies that need patient input, and they get paid for it. So we're kind of the matchmaker, if you will. We've found patients that are interested, and then we give them opportunities to share their opinions.
So has it always been the case that when we know the development of new therapies and medications, that's an involved process that certainly requires input from the general population, the patient population, caregivers. But has it always been that there's some kind of two-way street there or compensation for those assisting with that research?
I think a lot of things have developed over the years. Used to be, I'm sure, it's not that people didn't talk to patients at all, but for the most part, the pharmaceutical companies, the biotechs, they wanted to talk to the physicians, the doctors. Well, they prescribe, and that's all that really matters because they'll prescribe my products and people. And then over time, they started these ads on TV that go directly to patients. Patients have the internet, they have data. People started being empowered to take a role in their own health. What an idea. So companies were like, yeah, no question that the doctors are important. We need to talk to patients too, right? So that's been growing. We go to various conferences and we see folks in this industry, and the buzzword now is called patient centricity. That means putting the patient at the center of what you do. Well, when you're a drug company, they should be, right? That's who you're making it for. They're the ones using your product. So anyway, it's taken a while, but it's come to the point where they actually realize they need to listen and talk to patients, as you say, two ways, because patients want to hear what's out there, right, and what they might use and decide. But the companies, they can't just do this in a vacuum. Let's talk to a couple doctors. They need to listen. What do people need, and how are they suffering, and what do they need to beyond the drug, right? What services do they need? All that kind of thing. So it's really has changed over the years.
You bring up an interesting point. Growing up, I never saw ads. There were no ads on television for drugs that you may or may not even need or conditions you've never heard of. Personally, I have myasthenia gravis, and it seems like there was a watershed moment a few years ago where suddenly the airwaves are just filled with ads for myasthenia gravis medications. And, you wonder, what's the mentality, or at least the marketing approach to advertising to the general population, therapies that might be very focused.
Yeah.
But, what I guess you're seeing those develop into a lot of questions coming to physicians from those commercials?
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things there. First of all, it didn't used to be legal. It was not legal to advertise drugs. And then they made a change in the 90s. That's when I got involved in a lot of this research with companies, because they were interested in talking to patients. So it became legal. And guess what? It's only legal in 2 countries around the world, the United States and New Zealand.
Interesting.
So yeah, it is interesting. I mean, they have to figure out their marketing, because you'd think with something that's pretty rare, you're spending a lot of money to people that never heard of it, never will care about it if you're putting it on.
Exactly.
So somebody must do the math and say, wait a minute, we're still going to reach a few people. I mean, more often, yeah, they'll do that for more widespread conditions, like high blood pressure or diabetes. Okay, that makes sense.
Right.
It's the rarer ones. You think of them more doing targeted things like online, internet. Somebody's searching for something, they'll see an ad for that drug, or they'll guide people, or they might go to a publication that's specially geared to maybe an advocacy group for that, and they'll lead people to their website. But yeah, it's interesting that they see the opportunity to in effect spend money really broadly, and because it's all about, with any company, no matter how much they're saving lives, it's still right. It's about the making money. So they have to figure out a way to do that makes sense. So I guess if they're doing that, they're getting enough people that are asking their doctor that it's working for them. But that's where we come in a lot. Companies that are developing these drugs, they won't come directly to us. They'll go to a research firm and say, "Hey, myasthenia gravis, we want to reach out to people. What do they want to hear? What do they know? If we showed them a description of our new treatment, what questions would they have? Do they understand it? How can we improve how we talk about it? What services should we?" So anyway, they'll have all these questions and say, let's do surveys, let's do interviews with people to find out, and so that we're not putting an ad out that's terrible. And so companies work on that, but then they come to us just for, "Hey, can you get us 100 myasthenia gravis patients to do a survey? Can you get 10 of them to do Zoom interviews?" Whatever it might be. And that's where you may see if you've been invited to some of these. It's like, and what people like is a lot of times they'll show you a description, blinded, right? They won't tell you the name, but a blinded description of a new drug coming out. And I call it a sneak preview. It's like, if you scoured the internet, maybe you could find information about the clinical trial, whatever it might be. But it's nice to have it, and then react to it and tell them what you like and don't like. But you get to kind of hear, "Hey, good news, something's coming down the pike. Maybe it's for me. If it's not for me, maybe it'll help others." It's interesting to see.
Yeah, it is. Walk us through, you kind of talked about from the clinical side and the research side of it.
Okay.
Walk us through the patient experience. Someone goes to your site, reads about it, said, "Yes, I have this condition. I would be willing to share some information, be part of some research." They're going to fill out a form and then walk through what happens from that and how they get those opportunities and that sort of thing.
Yeah, good point. So yeah, people can sign up, and people sign up different ways with us. We go to patient events. We've been to a lot of MG walks over the years. That's where we've met. Advocacy groups. We have referral partners that refer folks, and give them the opportunity to sign up with us. But anyway, so at some point people sign up and say, "Here's my name, here's my condition, here's my most important, here's my email," because that's kind of how we contact people. And so they're in our database, and security is out. We got all these things. We're proud to say we're ISO certified. We go through a lot of things to make sure somebody can't hack in, and it's kind of scary because even big companies, right? You always hear about things being hacked. So hopefully we're under the radar. Nobody's even trying. But even if they do, we put in so many safeguards, because health, nobody has a right to see your health information. It's got to be
right.
But anyway, so we do all that. And then we have it. And we don't collect a lot of information. We just collect enough to target people. So like if we get a request for hemophilia A, we don't want to ask people with hemophilia B and waste the time. We want to go to the people who have the right one and target them. So we have enough information. And so a client will contact us and say, "Hey, we want to do," and they'll have a specific study in mind. We want to talk to 10 of them over the phone, 10 patients of a certain disease, or caregivers. We want 100 to do an online survey, and it's half an hour, whatever. They'll define it. We'll figure out. First of all, we work with them and say, based on what you're saying, here's how many we think will want to participate, and here's what we're going to charge you for them. And when they say go ahead, so our step is back to the email. We'll send an email to folks, and we try to make it as concise as possible, because if your email is like mine, right? Even though I unsubscribed everything, it's gets all this junk, right? And you miss all this stuff. So we'll see in the headline, as an example, 30-minute myasthenia gravis online survey, $60 reward, something like that. Just right off the bat, they can see, oh, it's from Rare Patient Voice. I remember them. I met them at an event, or I signed up. and they have a study. Oh, let me read the email to see more. And we try, and in the bullet points, we'll say, hey, we're doing a study. It'll give some descriptions. It'll say the payment, because we pay people at the rate of $120 per hour at the time. So if it was 30 minutes, it would be $60, for example. And so we'll let people know. So they'll say, hey, that sounds like something for me. Or I'm busy this week. I don't want to do it. And if you're busy, we actually give you a box to check that says, hey, don't throw me out of your panel, but don't send me reminders, because, we might send 2 or 3 reminders over the course of a couple of weeks.
Right.
And we don't want to bother. The last thing we want is people to hate us, right? So we like to think of ways to make them. So we say, hey, don't remind me. But so many people like, hey, I want to do this. I'd love to talk about this, or I want to do this survey. So they'll click a button and on their phone or on whatever it might be, right on the computer, and it'll go to a what we call the screener. It'll ask you questions to see if you qualify.
Right.
And that's the thing. Somebody will say, well, wait a minute, I have the disease. Why didn't I qualify? Well, they might want people on a certain drug, or they might want people of a certain age, or they might want people exactly like you, but they just got 10 of them, and they want other, you know what I mean? So there's reason people don't qualify. And that's the biggest complaint we get. I don't qualify. And I feel so bad, because we don't want people to feel like that, but it's not personal. It's just whatever the client looking for. But they go through that, and then if it's an online survey, if you pass, right, you start the survey right then, and you click and you answer questions. If it's an interview, they'll you can schedule a time, and then you work it out to pick a time that works for you, and you'll be on with a real live person and talking, and able to give your opinion. And then as soon as you're done, they confirm your information. We always ask people again. We have people's address, but we ask again, because what if you've moved, right? Because we pay by check, and we mail a check, or it can be now there's some electronic transfers. If people want that, we'll do that too. But so we'll when the project's done, each project has a project manager from our site. So if anybody has questions, they'll get an email. That's the person they ask, because they know all the details. They'll say, well, can you change my time at 3 o'clock, but it's 4 o'clock works, or I got hung up online. Can you reset it, or whatever problem somebody might have. Fortunately, it's not often, but you know how the things go, right? There's a lot there's possibility for problems. And so the project manager, when they're done, he figures it out. Okay, we got these. Here are the 10 people. They completed it, and then they put in for their payment, and the money goes out to those folks. So it really works like over the years we've developed a system. I think it works quite well. We have ways for people. If there's any problems, please ask. We like to pay people as fast as we can. That's people. They deserve it. Sometimes, some people are on disability. They need money for rent. Around the holidays, right? Especially, there's always money that needs to be spent around the holidays. So we try to do that as fast as possible and get them out. So every week, every Friday, the project managers submit that, and they put it all in. And usually they get me out of that Tuesday, and as fast as the postal service can to get them to people's mailboxes.
Okay. Well, I've personally participated in some surveys, and the process is very intuitive and seamless. And you guys do pay the patient very promptly, and that's good. I do want to touch on you mentioned something about the being denied, or you're not going to be part of a survey. And I have had that experience, and I felt that maybe sometimes it's might be tied to occupation. For instance, there was one in particular that I applied for, and it asked if you were like in marketing, if you worked, for an agency or something like that. And we owned an agency, and it didn't say why, but that got denied there. And I felt like, that might've been it, because they were looking for people that don't think like a marketer.
Yeah.
And then just recently, as a matter of fact, I think it was this week, there was one that just closed before I could get to it. They either had too many people, or, had what they were looking for. Time frame. Yeah. But, I get emails a lot, and it's a lot of good opportunities, I think, like you say, for people to earn extra money, but to also contribute.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit too, how this provides caregivers and patients an opportunity to contribute to the overall field of study.
Yeah, I mean, that's when we ask people why they participate. That's the first thing people say. They say, I feel like I'm helping. Either it doesn't help me, maybe it'll help those coming after me. And then they go, oh, by the way, the money's nice. So it's not just people are do it for the money, don't care. It's what's more important than you and your health or your kids' health or your parents, your loved one. And so people love to do that and express their opinion and learn about new things. And I say the money is nice, not just to reward people for their time, but it actually makes their opinion more valuable. Because think about it, if you're a biotech or pharmaceutical company or something, you're going to pay more attention to what you paid for, right? Than when you got free. You just put more value on it. And so I think it does a service to actually have the people paid, and it makes people sit up and pay attention to do that. So that is so important. One of the things that you made me think of, because we do feel bad when people don't qualify for, well, two things about that. As you can imagine, we can't say specifically what you should do to get in, because then some people might stretch the truth and change their answers. So we don't want to do that.
Sure.
But what we do is if you run into that case, like maybe it was because you're marketing, you can actually ask your project manager. Now, it won't change. It usually won't change the outcome, but a lot of people tell us they feel a lot better knowing, because was it because I'm old or because of this? And you can imagine people in healthcare often, and healthcare is a huge industry, so a lot of people are in healthcare. We had one years ago, and a woman said, my husband worked as a janitor in a hospital 30 years ago. So she checked the box in healthcare. And it's like, that's certainly not going to affect their opinions. Well, I was working on that project. I went to the client. They go, no, we'll let him in. So sometimes you can challenge that, because they're getting a little carried away with their what we call screening criteria, and what qualifies you or disqualifies you from taking. So it's always good. People can ask about it. It makes them feel better. Or again, maybe they'll get it changed depending on how open-minded the client is.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that it's a wonderful testimony. I know there are plenty of other diseases out there, but I look, of course, through the lens of MG. Just in the time that I have been diagnosed, which was in 2014, so this fall will be 10 years when I got my diagnosis. Wow. I have seen such advancement in treatment. There's so many more treatment options now for MG. And if you start paying attention to the advertisements on television, it's not just MG. There are a lot of conditions that new treatment options are coming available. And we have to remember, as a patient community, these advancements do not happen without all that research behind it.
Yeah. It takes a long time. I was just looking, somebody was asking me what some of the top conditions and diseases we've been working on. And there's so many, because thousands of different ones. But when I totaled it all up, for the past year or so, MG was at one of the top ones.
Interesting.
And I always say too, when we have a study, when we have an email sent out to people, that's good news. You know why? It means somebody's doing something, because nobody's paying to do a study for fun. They're doing it because they're working on treatment. And I don't know if the treatment is like that much better or that much better, but at least somebody's working on something. And I feel good if there's been a lot of work requests we've gotten. It means there's different companies working on different things. And as you say, you see the ads. So that's what we can ask, keep working on it, right? Until somebody figures out cures. And I know a lot of these things, there's no cures and we want to treat, but someday there will be. Someday we'll look back and say, geez, weren't we were living in the Stone Ages. It's so good.
Right. Well, and just, when I was diagnosed, treatment was exclusively, for the most part that I know of, dealing with the symptoms.
Yeah.
You were strictly dealing with the symptoms. And some of the newer therapies now are really trying to address the core of the disease and change the mechanics, what's going on in the body, as opposed to just dealing with the effects from that. So, fast forward another 10 years, it's exciting to think about where we might be.
Yeah, a lot of these diseases are caused by different genetic issues, and now they're learning. They're learning to cure some of these. So who knows what we'll be able to figure out. Just have one step at a time, right? And
there you go.
Past success. So, and I have to say, people say, I feel so good participating in research. And sometimes the research was what color is the best for their ad. And I'm thinking, well, that didn't save anybody's life, but people feel really good about contributing to that as well. So it ranges the gamut, right? So.
Right. It's important to note, I want to emphasize this, can you talk about this, that when Rare Patient Voice started, of course, you were almost exclusively focusing on rare diseases, but you've expanded well beyond that now.
Yeah, when we started, I just made an assumption that if companies were looking to talk to people with more mainstream conditions, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, that they would find them, because there's panels that have people that eat Cheerios and drive Chevys, and they would have people with diabetes. But then two things happen. One is, unfortunately, rare is the person who only has one condition. Because so somebody with hemophilia would sign up and say, should I also put down my asthma, for example? And I used to think, or my friend here, can he sign up? He's got, lupus, or no, that's rare. He's got anxiety, or whatever it might be. And when I was considering that, all of a sudden a client called and said, by the way, do you have asthma patients? And okay, I'm saying no to nobody. If people want to sign up with that, and if clients are interested, who am I to say no? I just had to assume. So I didn't want to change the name, because the focus on rare, but we added a tagline. If you look at our website, it says Rare Patient Voice, also non-rare. So that got rare and non-rare. So so over time, we've done that. So we welcome people with any and all conditions, and we welcome people when they sign up. So say somebody's at an MG walk, we'll say, no, list all your conditions, because you can be invited to surveys for other topics as well, whether it's rare or not. And then if people refer other friends, relatives, support group members, they can be, if their grandmother has type 2 diabetes, have her, we'll welcome her. It doesn't have to be someone with rare. So we've opened our arms wide for everyone.
Wes, tell us a little bit about the path that got you to where you are today, and how the Rare Patient Voice was launched.
Yeah, so I was a market researcher. I used to work for General Mills. I did market research on things like Cheerios and Wheaties, right? And then I worked for McCormick, the spice company, so the gourmet spice products and spaghetti mixes and all that kind of thing. And then in the 90s, where those ads became legal, I was looking for something a little different, and I got into what they call healthcare market research. And it was at the same time that I said they made these ads legal. So I got involved in doing consumer research in those days when most of the companies were doing physician research, right? They're talking to doctors. And that's where I found, one, patients were interested in sharing their stories. But what really gave me this idea was a client came to us, the company, and said, they were in the hemophilia space, and there were even fewer hemophilia patients then, because a whole generation was wiped out if they take a blood product, a blood factor product, and think about it, when in the early days of HIV and AIDS, they didn't realize to screen that out of the blood, and really a whole generation was wiped out from that. It was just a horrible situation. But this was after that, and they had better treatments, and they said, we need to learn more about our patients. We want to, and their families, because at that point, so many of them were young boys, and we want to learn more so we can appeal to them more. Can you create a panel, a database of patients and caregivers with hemophilia? And so we can do surveys and interviews and really learn what they're thinking and really get into their heads and really help them. And so we did. We went to the National Hemophilia Conference and set up a table and had giveaways. And it wasn't online or anything. It was people signing up paper and pencil. And it worked. We got a lot of people that were interested. We did a lot of interviews and surveys. And that was worked. And every year we go back to the National Hemophilia Foundation and set up our table, because they moved around from city to city. So it was a great to meet new people each time. But a couple of years into that, I was at one of those hemophilia conferences, and a client from a different hemophilia company came up to me and said, I hear you have this patient panel. Can we access it? In other words, do you do surveys for us? And I'm like, no, I mean, client A paid for it. That's exclusive to client A. You can't give it to client B. But that gave me the idea. It's like, why not create a group? It's not exclusive to paying out company A or company B, and they can work on anybody. And I had that idea for years, and I kept thinking about it and said, there's definitely a need, because people more and more want to talk to patients. It's not necessarily easy to find. And again, I was thinking rare patients at the time. And I had that idea for many, many years, because that was around the year 2000. And then in 2013, this is when I found the rare patients. In 2013, everything came together, kind of forced me to do it. The company I was working for ran into some cash flow issues and asked me if I could work a few months without being paid. And my wife had been out of the workforce raising our kids, and she had started to look for a job, and she found a local one, and it was all about having healthcare then, right? Because you want to make sure. And the kids were like 11 and 12, so they were old enough. And I said, okay, wait a minute. You go start your job. It was the summertime. I'll be home with the kids. We haven't made plans for it, but you know, I'll start. I'll be around here as I get this thing started. And so then I picked a name, and the first thing I did was, you guessed it, hemophilia, because I had done it before, and I'd been involved in that category, and I knew there was a lot of things happening and interest. So I went to the hemophilia conference again, this time more under the Rare Patient Voice name, and started, telling our story and recruiting patients. And our very first project was somebody called right around then and said, "Do you have any hemophilia patients?" I said, "Bingo, you got us at the right time." And that was our first project. So it started from me alone doing hemophilia to now we've got 1,500 diseases. We've got 42 people, groups that just run the projects, groups that work and go to all these patient events and work with the referral partners and such, and then groups that work with our clients and give them the proposal, the costs and the feasibilities. And we've done 9,000 some projects. And then the thing I like to mention the most, and we paid patients now over $13 million for taking part in studies. So it's a little
outstanding,
a little Robin Hoodish there. I mean, I love the clients, but we're taking some money they value the patient's opinion, and it gets into the patient pocket who can really use it. So, and then we charge them on top. We're so it's a win-win. We like it, the patients like it, and the clients love that they get, and that we get compliments over and over again. You think it's funny, they go, "We love the patients." Like, what do you mean? Well, they're real. There's a lot of fraud in this in market research. People pretending to have a disease to do a study to make money. And now you can use AI and bots and things. And people tell us, "We love your patients," because we've met them. We've worked with advocacy groups. We're not just online letting everybody check boxes to make money. We take care. And so clients like that. So it's worked out really well. We've avoided some of those problems, but we've been able to reward patients and keep them coming back for more, right? So
that's excellent. This is a classic case of everyone wins, and you have a wonderful business model here that's helping a lot of people.
It's really worked well. And one thing that I certainly didn't plan at all that worked out so well is I talked about our staff of 42. So when it first started, it was just me. And then as I would get busy, I would bring people on. Well, we started going to these patient events, right? I'd go around the country, and it would actually, it was great. So my kids, again, if they were 11 and 12 at the time, one of my kids would come with me. There'd be an MS walk in the morning, and then we'd have weekend to tour Chicago. Or I remember going to Albuquerque with my daughter. So we would go around to these events. Well, over time, we obviously meet a lot of patients. Some people said, "Hey, how can I help? What can I do?" Well, we brought on a lot of patients and caregivers as part-timers to go to an event in their city. And so they might go to 3 or 4 a year. We would send them the tablecloth and the signs and the clipboards, and who better than the patient to say, it's like you saying, "I've done it." And they connect emotionally. There's like, "Hey, I'm a patient with this.
Right.
I'm a mom of a kid with that." And it was terrific. Well, the thing I didn't plan on was not only did that work out, some of those folks said, "Wait a minute, what more can I do? Or do you have any full-time opportunities?" And at that point, you see who's got something on the ball, right? And so, and we need a new project manager, and we'd offer full-time opportunity. And so, I don't know, half of our people have come through the rare disease community as a patient or a caregiver. They get that side of it. They've been there. And then as an employer, they know us because they work with us. We know that, there's no better way to hire somebody than they're working for you a little bit before. So it's not just based on some interview. Yeah. And so it's really worked out well. We've had a wonderful staff. In 10 years, we've only had 3 people leave us, and 2 of them, it was wonderful. They end up being very good clients. They went to other companies and they became clients. So they got an opportunity that we couldn't give them. So it's I don't know. It's a wonderful thing. We've gotten great people, and they've been part of the community, and they love it because we get people from their referrals I think they're a better bunch of people I never knew. So.
Outstanding. Well, Wes, how can patients get in touch with you and tell us about the website, and let's talk about how
Yeah.
they can engage.
Yeah, so the easiest and best way is the website. It's rarepatientvoice.com, or if you Google Rare Patient Voice, it pops right up, fortunately. And we put as much information there that we can think of. But please, if anybody has questions, we list emails there. There's a lot of pages with stuff. We love it when people have a question about things like that. So I encourage people to go there, spread the word. If they're interested in signing up, as you did, there's buttons there that say sign up, and you'll see they'll ask you. Again, not that many, enough questions so that we don't waste your time. We know what your disease is and your email and your address and your gender and the various things everybody always asks.
Right.
So we encourage that. If people can see my email there, I'm always happy. I love to get emails from folks. We do a lot on LinkedIn. The company has a big Facebook presence. And patients will see us there, so they can look at Rare Patient Voice on Facebook. From a business perspective, we do a lot of LinkedIn. A lot of our clients we find there, and advocacy groups too. And you can find me there, Wes Michael, on LinkedIn. I'm always happy. I'm always looking. People have questions. So there's a lot. We try not to put any barriers up, right? There's a lot of ways to find us, ask questions, get a hold of us. So appreciate people trying to do that.
That's great. Well, my guest today has been Wes Michael. He is the founder and CEO of Rare Patient Voice. As he said there, you find it on rarepatientvoice.com, and go on over there, check it out. And patient, caregiver, or a provider, pharmaceutical company, reach out to Wes, and he's going to help make some connections. Thanks for being here today, Wes.
Thanks a lot. Tell them, if you sign up, tell them Steven sent you.
There you go.
Thanks so much.
Live Life Rare is part of the Rare Life Podcast Network. This has been a production of Rare Life Media.